I've really stepped into the boldness of claiming what I want, which I think as women there's so much fear around that, and I think one of the things that I've been trying to keep myself safe from is I had a huge fear of judgment, of putting myself out there, letting people down. And now, yeah, I have become and am being unapologetic about, what I want and where I'm going and what I want to create. And I think that boldness, there's a lot of emphasis these days in the coaching world, which I love, and just in, like personal growth about like being, like
Yeah.
it's not about what am I doing, but like who am I actually being?
Yeah.
And am I acting and holding myself up, or like am I showing up the way that like the leader of a global fashion brand would be? Like how does Desiree in 5 years, like when I'm at that place or whatever, like who is she? What is she doing? What is she wearing? Who is she going to lunch with? What is she eating for lunch? Like where is she? And so it's this art of becoming by being, and really honing in on being super mindful and intentional about how I'm showing up and who I'm being.
Warmly, warmly welcome. I could not be happier than having my dear friend and fantastic woman, entrepreneur, everything that you are here with me. Welcome, Desiree.
Likewise, I'm so honored and grateful to be here, to be your first guest on the Rise Show.
Yes, yes. And this is actually obviously a little bit special. Well, you are special. And also you are the first woman to come on here, and we get to be here together in person, which is so fantastic. So today, to kind of just introduce the topic, you are truly such a fantastic woman. You are such an impact-driven, mission-based entrepreneur. There are so much to say about you, and I'm going to ask you actually to introduce yourself in just a little bit. But before we do that, I kind of would just want to introduce the whole talk with how we actually met, which is, what was it, like a couple of months ago?
Yeah, let's do it. A couple months ago, yeah.
Okay, cool. So for you, obviously, who are, well, for you who are new here and for you who know the show from beginning, I speak a lot about the power of authentic personal branding. I speak so much about the art of healthy self-promotion. And here we have a fantastic example of someone who did such a fantastic job of introducing yourself on brand with so much feminine power. And actually, on that note, I'm going to ask you to introduce yourself now. Please do it. And we can share the next parts later.
Leave them hanging. Yeah. Okay. So I'm Desiree. I am the founder of the world's first global iconic vegan fashion brand. I consider myself a social entrepreneur, always mission-driven, heart-led, and yeah, here to create big impact in the world. I'm from Canada, from Vancouver, Canada, and now currently living in Bali for the past year.
Wow. P.S. I'm from Canada. That's fantastic. So this is what happens. Let me just start with, I want to honor you for being bold in the way you hold yourself, in the way you introduce yourself, because this is actually how we get our message out in the world. So to make a long story short, me and Desiree met here in Bali a few months ago, and we were attending an event, and all of us got the opportunity to hold the mic for like 30 seconds or so and introduce ourselves. And the way you introduce yourself, I was standing next to her and I was like, this woman seems epic. I want to talk with her. And obviously we got to connect afterwards and just completely, hit it off, you could say, speaking about heart-based entrepreneurship, speaking about being a woman with big dreams, living life on purpose, and all those kind of things. So for me now, I have a challenge in, oh my God, what do we do with this incredible woman? Because there are so many incredible things to say about you. But as for everything, I know that a lot of the women and men who are listening to this show is very interested in living on purpose, doing business with heart and soul, and how can we translate our unique skills, gifts, and talents to business. And in the way we speak here, spirit means business. And that's exactly what you've done with your brand. But before we go into what you're doing today, like take us back. What is it that have made you you? Because obviously, born and raised in Canada, you're in Bali. I know you're a serial entrepreneur. You've done so many incredible things. So take us back to the beginning and we'll see where you choose to start.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's this like age-old question of nature versus nurture. So I am definitely like, I wouldn't say the black sheep because that sounds like negative, but I am like the purple sheep, let's say, or the Seth Godin's the purple cow, like I am the one that from like day one just like did not fit in, was like if everyone's going right, I'm going left, always kind of just like being to my own drum, challenging the status quo and yeah, just always questioning life and just always feeling. I grew up watching Oprah with my mom. And it sounds so cliche, but just being a teenager and watching this woman like build this basically global empire and lead conversations that nobody else was having or even comfortable with having and bringing things to the forefront, I just realized like anything is possible. If she, as the person that she was, created what she did with her life, then from like 16 years old, I just felt like anything is possible. And thankfully, I grew up in a home that also reinforced that. Like I come from a privileged family of love and nurture and care so I went to business school, and it's so funny because when I did my degree, I had two options in business school. It was either entrepreneurship or international business. And I'm like, well, I'm never going to be an entrepreneur, so let's just like forget about that option and study international business. And yeah, so I studied international business and I had some really remarkable, incredible jobs after I graduated university. One of them, I ended up working for a startup medical company. So at a very young age, I always tell people it felt like I got like a real life MBA because for 4 years in like the height of my 20s, I moved to the other side of Canada to Montreal from Vancouver. I worked with these four young 30-year-olds who had founded this medical device startup. I was the eighth employee who I was also the executive assistant to two of the founders, one of them being the CEO and the other one being the chief marketing officer and the chief operating officer. So basically everything to do on the business side got handed to me. And I just had this exposure of what it was like to build a business. And I think from there, I ended up working for a national wine company where everything was completely different. Like at the startup, it was just families like, if you needed to come in at 10 a.m. because you had a dentist appointment in the morning, or if you needed to, like, it was just, are we allowed to swear on this podcast? Like it's just like get shit done. Like, as long as you're like, everyone's just in it to like get the work done and to move the needle and for like a higher purpose versus when I went to corporate, it was like all the rules. Like you start at 8, you should really be here by, 7:45. Your lunch is at this time. You work until 5, but you should probably stay until 6, and like all these like rules and regulations. And as you know, when you're naturally born leader, entrepreneur, we don't do well in those kinds of situations because I don't need to be babysat. And so I lasted 1 year at that company. And from there, and that was 2008. And from there, I've basically been self-employed and doing my own thing ever since with usually different initiatives. But the one thing I will say, at that time, when I started my business, I mean, as you know, as an entrepreneur or anyone that becomes self-employed, it is the biggest journey into personal growth and personal development.
Oh, yes.
Yes.
Just a PS, an add-on, not a PS, an add-on. I always say that running your own business, going for your big dreams and visions, it is truly like the biggest personal growth university you could possibly find. So just like to pause a little bit, love what you're saying, because I know that a lot, if not everyone who is listening to this show is completely can understand the whole thing about feeling like we quote unquote do not fit in, like there has to be something else, and just being like, a bit rebellious almost, like, no, I'm going to do it my way, and still being heart-based during such a transition. And obviously I have, well, your full story, but more of it. So being the woman you are, and I know you are so driven by purpose and value driven as well. How have that served you? Because it would be very easy, like many people do, and not to judge that as good or bad, to stay in a situation where we do not feel like we belong, or we just have this intuitive feeling of, oh my God, there has to be something else. So what is it within you that have given you the courage, so to say, to actually move beyond, the traditional norms? Or we all have it. We're from the Western world. So
yes, I mean, we all have it for sure. I think for me, there's a few things for sure. I've always been guided by this like sacral force, this like, I just have this knowing of when things feel right. Even when I went to Montreal and I got that job with that startup company, I knew immediately, like walking in the office, it was deja vu. Like I knew I belonged. I knew it was like right with everything in my body. And So I'll answer your question, but I'll provide a little bit more context, because when I started my journey of entrepreneurship, I just started reading all of these books and I had access to all of this personal development. And one of the books that really impacted my life was Stephen Covey's The Seven Habits of Highly Effective People.
Yes.
And my biggest takeaway from reading that book was that I developed, or I had defined, my own personal mission statement, and I had defined and recognized my own personal values, which you don't really, especially in your 20s, you don't really think about like, what are my values? Like, what do I stand for? And what is the purpose of my life? And so that critical point when I left my corporate job was that I was feeling what I will call, like, I'll refer to probably later on in the conversation, but like dis-ease, which is like I was driving to work, very short drive, and my jaw, like I had pain in my jaw. I constantly felt like I was stressed out, and I'm 28 years old, and I'm like, I am way too young to be suffering from like health problems or like unhappy, feeling miserable. And I just thought, I'm not going to stand for this. Like, so I think one of the things that I'm proud of myself for is always like my bravery and my courage to just be like I didn't know what I was going to do, to be honest, but I did have a bit of a light bulb moment where I thought, I'm climbing a ladder. I don't even like the wall that this ladder is on that I'm climbing. And I saw my future, 10 years from there with my boss, who was 10 years older than me, with 2 young kids, in the office until 6, 7 at night, having to go on business trips. And I'm like, if I ever have a family, which I don't even end up having kids, but like, I just thought that's not the life that I want to, that's not the ladder I want to climb. And so, I just made a bold decision that day. I was driving to work. I'm like, I'm way too young. I should not be having health issues at this age. And I put in my 2 weeks and I quit. And then, the story writes itself from there. But I think it's like the knowing, like I think we always know.
Yeah.
And when we don't follow what we know, then things in our life will start to suffer, and we'll see representation of that tangibly or like externally, either with our health, with our relationships, our finances, name it. Like those things are going to start to show the problems and the conflict because we're not following our path.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow, there are so many things to expand on in what you're saying, because first of all, I'm hearing you speak about like, I'm you in my body. That's what we're saying. And obviously it's so, like you said as well, it's easy to try to numb it, or now wanting to actually see and witness what's there, because it takes something. And we're getting to that point as well, because we can read your bio, and listen to you and to see this, oh my God, beautiful, gorgeous, incredible, inspirational female entrepreneurs is like doing her thing. And we're getting to that part of the story as well, because you said it yourself, like personal development. And I love that you said, you were mentioning Stephen Covey's book, and that's just, one of so many resources we can actually use to grow and evolve. And I know that you are so much about amplifying consciousness in the work you do with your business as well. So going back to your mission statement and knowing your values, and I do this work with my clients all the time. So, and I know also from my first experience, it's so easy to have them. Well, first of all, you might not have them because that's normally not something we are being taught in school. Second, well, we might have them, but they don't really mean anything, in the sense we might not really have like an embodied relationship with them. With you, though, I know it's very different. So would you want to share with us what was, and perhaps it has evolved with you, of course, but that mission statement that helped you to move forward and like really start carving your own unique path? What was it back then?
Back then was just, I really felt like I wanted to do impactful, meaningful work. And so because we spend our entire lives working, and for me, it was never like, I just need to work for 40 years and then retire. Like I'm also privileged to come from this generation where we started to like, I saw my parents and all of their friends working towards retirement, and like half of them wouldn't even make it. They're like dying of a heart attack, or you know what I mean? And they work their whole lives for their retirement, and then they don't even make it. And so for me, it was like, well, first of all, I identified my values, and my top value for sure was freedom.
Yeah.
And my other top values were my health, relationships, and partnership. And then the other really amazing, incredible, remarkable thing that happened in the same year, when I was working for that, it was actually a national wine company. I was a brand manager. When I was working at that company, I actually was the start of my vegan journey. So my coworker had recommended this book, which I then read. and basically adopted a vegan lifestyle from that moment. And so the other value which started to become more and more prevalent was the value I have for animals, and just like all of life, essentially just becoming much more of like a humanitarian and an advocate for animals and the planet.
I love it. And as I'm sitting here, I was like, oh my God, what question to take next? Because we can go in so many different ways. But going back to the whole point of being impact-driven entrepreneur and a woman on a mission, you could say for sure when it comes to you, what would you say then that thing, what it really had meant for you to carve your path? What are the mindset obstacles or fears and all the things that you know that it's been imperative for you to move beyond in order to actually stay true to your purpose? Because going back to what you said in the beginning, how easy it is to follow the norm, to do as we have been taught and so on, instead of just being an explorer and, hey, this does not feel right. I am trusting my body. I do not know what's on the other side, but I'm going to leap. There is this beautiful quote by Julia Cameron, leap and the net will appear.
Yes.
And I know that goes for you and for us who are on this journey together. So what is it that, out of all the things, most of everything you're mentioning, a vegan lifestyle, and, having freedom as one of your core values, all this combined, what has been the most important thing that's fueled you forward when you have felt, fear, when you have for sure met obstacles and setbacks and quote unquote the failures that we learn and grow from? What are those things?
Honestly, it's the spiritual practice and coming back to myself. And anytime I'm off path, I suffer in a certain way. And so it's just this constant reminder of that, really listening to like my guiding light. That's always it. And then and taking the bold decisions. Like, I think, to answer your question a little bit more roundedly, like especially back then, I think, because I was younger, and one of the benefits of being me or who I am is that there's always like plus and minuses, right? Like pros and cons. So for me, a pro at the time was that I'm very independent, like hyper independent. And so I don't go to my friends and family for advice. Like, I didn't tell anybody I'm quitting my job, because they would have, like, 100 people would have said, what are you doing? Like, you don't quit your job until you have something else lined up. What are you going to do? I told my boss I was going to go be a waitress, and she laughed at me when I resigned. And I'm like, I don't know, but I know, but
Yeah, I know what you mean. I'm sitting here nodding.
Yeah. And so, like, being hyper independent, not outsourcing feedback or advice has been like my strength, which again, there can be weaknesses that come along with that as well. But in this time, it was very much a strength. And yeah, just always knowing that I know what's best for me. I know, like,
Yes.
maybe I don't know where I'm headed, but I know I have to take this direction. I know it's leading me somewhere. Yeah. And following that, having the gusto to just be like, I'm doing it. And the other pro about being me is that I'm very impulsive. So I'm just like, screw it. You know what I mean? Like, I'm way too young. I got stress in my jaw. I'm not spending another day like this. I quit. No plan, no nothing. Just in hindsight, maybe like might want to have saved up for 3 months and then quit.
Yeah.
But here we are. So
is this like why we hit it off? Because we have so many different characteristics, and I'm sitting here, we're smiling, and like, I hear you. Even at the same age, we kind of, embarked on that entrepreneurial journey, even though, I always say same, but different. So listening to you, first of all, just honoring, interesting. The first thing you said was, when I asked you like the number one thing that's fueled you forward, you said my spiritual practice, my light within, which I love that you're saying, because this show is also so much about acknowledging our own sense of self, spirituality, whatever we want to call it, whatever faith we might have, and to be bold enough to go for it. And obviously to go for it, and the whole thing of going for it and being bold, well, it would not be scary if we would have known exactly how everything would look. But that would, of course, not have been that big of an adventure either. So I'm just honoring you for being bold and being unapologetically you. And I also kind of want to go back to the fact that you shared a little bit about your journey. I also know that you've been part of an NGO. I mean, you still are. And speaking about being on a mission and really looking into your journey. What is it that makes you, and knowing that your brand would not be what it is today if you would not have been doing all the stuff you've been doing, the good, well, I'm not going to say the bad, but you know what I mean? The highs, the lows, obviously everything. And that's what makes you so fantastic. What would you say that part of your business, because that was also about shoes in a sense.
Yeah, it's remarkable.
Or do you want to share a little bit about that?
Yeah, it's remarkable how you have this like, invisible string that kind of like goes through this through line with my life. And it's fascinating to me, even myself. I'm like, I don't know why shoes has been like my thing, but it has. And I think another one of my like, I guess, skill sets or like, positive benefits of being me is I'm a problem solver as well. And so the whole and I'm just like, it's what I tell people is like when they're overwhelmed, they have this like maybe a big vision or like a big thing they want to do. It's like you don't climb the entire staircase in one go. You just like it's always like one step at a time.
Yeah.
So with the NGO you mentioned, which is called Ruben Shoe Society, it all started because of a boy named Ruben, my best friend who's been through everything with me. I was living with at the time that I quit my job, and we ended up starting a business together in financial services. And she had been sponsoring this boy named Ruben. And so for years, she had his little picture as he grew up on her fridge. We were also, roommates. And so Ruben was always a part of our life. And she got a chance to go and meet him. He's from the Dominican Republic. She was on vacation and she got to go to his home and meet him. And that was the first time being Canadian. Her eyes and our eyes were really open to like international poverty and what so many millions of people, and especially children, are living in and with. And it was just completely unacceptable to her. Like when she met him, he was, a 10-year-old little boy, no different than any 10-year-old boy in Vancouver, Canada, but his living situation was entirely different. No running water, no electricity, the dirt was their floor. And he was one of 10 siblings. So he had 9 brothers and sisters. And for them to go to school, they needed school supplies, a uniform, backpack, shoes. And you think that these things are like really affordable essentials, but when you have 10 kids and all of them need all of these things, it becomes, a limiting factor to be able to send all your kids to school. And so anyways, long story short, after her name was Kelly, after Kelly came home from meeting Ruben, she came to me and she said, told me that children like Ruben in the Dominican and in many places around the world, if they don't have shoes, that's one of the limiting factors where they can't go to school. So she said, I want to start a project. I'm going to call it Ruben Shoes. We're going to collect a couple hundred pairs of shoes from all of our friends who have kids that are growing up that wear their shoes a couple of times. And within 6 months, we had sent a 40-foot container with 13,000 pairs of shoes to the Dominican Republic. Oh. Went there to give out the shoes. Met a woman who was trying to run a private school. Very difficult for her to do because she couldn't charge tuition for the families. So then we started this education sponsorship program from there and got all of her students education sponsored by families in Canada. And to this day, we built 3 schools and have 700 students and 60 staff that we employ, all because of this one small little problem that we could solve, get 100 pairs of shoes to kids in the Dominican Republic. And it's been 10 years. So it's not like this happened overnight, but it was, again, just being a problem solver. This doesn't make sense. Like there's absolutely no reason why kids in any part of the world should not be able to get to school, which is the only thing. Education is the only way we're ever going to like help lift people out of poverty. And just knowing that. And again, we were already running. So this was a second business that it was a not-for-profit business, but we ran for 5 years alongside our financial services business. So, and still to this date are running too. I'm the chair of the board now.
Speaking about being a woman, living on brand, being on a mission, and I want to pause here as well, because for all of us and anyone who is listening, when it comes to impact, it's so easy to think that, oh my God, like it's almost a little bit overwhelming to look at problems out there in the world. And we tend to underestimate the power or even as one person, an individual, like one tiny seed. This was an idea, and I love this because obviously this is what I speak about here as well. Like, how can we take that idea, that dream seed that might seem ridiculous if we share it with quote unquote the wrong person, or just share it sacredly, within ourselves with people we love and trust, and see what it wants to become. And this is, you said 700 kids, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that's incredible. Like, And the thing is here, we're speaking about 700 kids. And then obviously if we're creating about the ripples on the water, speaking about that each and every one of us, the level of impact we can create by leveraging our IDs, I think is absolutely fantastic. And also going back to authentic branding, when we look at you and hear your story, I mean, if I would have asked you, or if you would have asked yourself, okay, when you were 20, I mean, did you know what you were going to do at this age today, right? So I think this is, you said also, taking it step by step and trusting the path, trusting the journey, the path of evolution. And what you said from the beginning as well, you know what? I've been bold. You said also, you did not say independent, you said hyper independent a couple of times. I noticed that. I was like, yeah, get it. I'm with you. But seeing that as incredible strengths and not being afraid of actually saying, hey, I'm proud of these characteristics. They have been taking me far. And of course, in hindsight, perhaps there are some things that, okay, I could have been perhaps a little bit more cautious here. But still, well, if so, who knows? Your story would have been different.
Yeah.
So if we then infuse, obviously, you are born and raised in Canada. I know you've been traveling all over the world. We're here in Bali. You've been living here for the past year, really, really adopting a more nomadic lifestyle, which is a privilege to be able to do that. And now, okay, so we got to hear a little bit of your experience, and there are so many more layers here, but just to take it from here, what would you say, all these components, how have they built your current brand? Because I know that we would love to hear more about your brand and what you do today, because I know that you actually fashion here in a sense to actually create change and to create a powerful impact. And obviously fashion is very interesting because it is an industry that has been taking a lot of blame, of course, for not being sustainable and so on. Mm-hmm. But I know also that you see yourself and your brand and what you're doing as a powerful force to actually create change and to shift this current narrative. So tell us a little bit more about your luxurious, gorgeous brand.
Thank you. Yes, I just have to laugh because when you talk about like when you're a child and you think about your future, like I actually thought, this is going to sound really weird, but I thought I was going to die when I was like 36 because I just could not picture, like, you just grow up thinking you check off the boxes, buy a house, get married, have kids, and like the life that I'm leading right now at 46, like did not really exist. You know what I mean? Like this is such an, like our lifestyle right now is just so beyond what was, even like possible 30 years ago or when I was growing up. And so, yeah, I'm like, my life just must end because I just really can't see like me following this.
Girl, you're just getting started.
And here we are. And so anyways, yeah. And then this whole through line of shoes is so funny because like obviously as a woman I love shoes, but I just thought that was like a normal natural thing that we all do. But yeah, to answer your question, I mean there was certain things that were really bubbling up for me which created the vision that I came to with Voes and Company. And so Voes stands for vegan shoes, so it's the V for veganism and OES for shoes. And as I mentioned, in 2008, I read a book called Skinny Bitch. And in the middle of the book, it just hit me like it was very graphic information about the animal agriculture industry. And so for me, like I was already, as I mentioned, like my health was high priority. I was already like very plant-based person. I love fruits and vegetables. So the food, which is usually people's biggest pain points when they start to like try to be vegan, was not a problem for me at all. It was just like, okay, whatever. But for me, the problem was fashion, because so much of designer fashion is leather and beautiful leather bags, beautiful leather shoes. Mm-hmm. And my biggest pain point in my life for 7 years, my first 7 years of my vegan journey, was finding beautiful designer shoes. And what also ended up happening was that, this whole little thing called climate change really started to weigh on me. Like we started to become very aware of what is happening to the planet and that we are entering this crisis mode. And I also understood the devastating impact of animal agriculture on the planet. So not just what we're doing to animals, but alternatively, it's one of the leading causes, the leading cause of deforestation is animal agriculture to produce, meat and leather. The fashion industry is responsible for 10% of all global greenhouse gases. So there was all these things that were weighing on me from an environmental perspective. And you combine that with the pain point I had of needing some designer shoes. So the problem with vegan fashion is that if it's not animal material like leather or suede, then alternatively it's synthetic based petroleum products like polyurethane or PVC, which because of everything I just explained, I didn't feel good about, not purchasing animal products, but then alternatively purchasing plastic products. So there was no solution. There's no beautiful shoes that I could feel good about purchasing and buying. That on top of the fact that for years as a vegan person, I just longed for this iconic brand that represented the values of veganism. So I always refer to like Nike. You see the Nike swoosh, and anywhere you go, almost anywhere in the world, you see that swoosh and you know that it represents athleticism, fitness, running, sport, you know what I mean? And I'm like, I just craved like I've never been an activist. I've been very uncomfortable with confrontation or anything like that. But I just really wish I could show up to a restaurant or go out and buy things from a brand that was fully vegan and that represented my values. And it didn't exist. I'm like, where is that iconic vegan fashion brand? And so that culmination is where Voes Co was created, and solving a problem, my own problem. I need designer shoes, not made from leather or plastic. The craving for an iconic brand. I'm very much a brand and marketing person, so brand is so important to me. Plus, I think, just being an entrepreneur, a natural problem solver, all the things that just starting. Like, I didn't start right away with launching a whole collection of shoes. And I mean, this journey started for me in 2016. I had the idea for Voes and Company. And for years, I didn't do anything about it, which I'm sure like we can get into all the reasons why, which I've now learned, keeping me safe, procrastination. It was, I didn't realize it, but of course I was terrified to become, the face or like a global leader of an iconic brand, especially in veganism, because that's very polarizing. And I just, my nervous system was trying to protect me and keep me safe because it would be very scary. It has been scary, but so it's been,
Wow. And look at you now.
Yeah.
Gorgeous. By the way, so many nuggets of wisdom here again. And I'm thinking, going back, first of all, trusting the idea and also trusting time, because I think, having patience is something that many of us, can work on as a characteristic. But then obviously there's a time, there's something that is actually time and perspective into growing into the person who is ready to really, step up as a leader for something that you believed in and believe in so much. Then we're speaking about, procrastination and all those kind of things, fears that naturally arise. And that also brings me to what we're going to discuss as well, because it's so easy, again, to just look at success. Oh my God, here you are, you're leading this company, you have done all these beautiful, impactful things in your life. And then we're like, well, actually, there have been multiple steps, multiple steps for you in order to actually be there. And just as you were mentioning now, not only having the thoughts that might limit us, but then obviously looking into how those thoughts are hardwired in our bodies. Like you said, well, it's actually just my nervous system that tried to keep me safe, because obviously the familiar is what's safe compared to just like, okay, I'm just going to take this dream seed and throw myself out in the vegan fashion market that I back then did not really know much about, right?
Still don't.
You're learning. And I love that as well, because I mean, all of us, we have to sit with those fears. And at the end of the day, either we let them stop us, and of course, at some point, I think we all can relate to times in our lives when we've done that. And then we reach a point where you said it earlier as well, I made a decision. So can you pinpoint back, when did you make the decision? Because you said, actually, I got the idea. I think you said 2016.
Yes.
And then you obviously, started you reading the book and you really got into veganism as a lifestyle. And then you got an idea, and then it took you a couple of years until you actually fully stepped into it. And I think let's just pause here and discuss this for a bit, because entrepreneurship, success is something that can be so glorified, specifically in the age of social media and all the things. And we kind of forget the path, the journey, and what it truly takes.
Yeah.
And for you then, like healing, like really embarking on this transformative path of who you needed to become. If you would compare who you are today, and obviously you're a little bit older, but still, like, what have been the most the most important things that you've had to overcome, that you have to be so bold and unapologetic about? You were mentioning earlier your spiritual practice, obviously your values, da, da, da. But really, what is it? If you would just want to take this moment to honor yourself, I am proud of these obstacles that I've chosen to overcome, what would that be?
Yeah, I mean, I think at the time it was, I don't know if it was fear, but it was fear on the other side. Like it was like a fear of regret because what happened was I had the idea in 2016, and this was before veganism became mainstream. So I had this idea, and then but it was also during the time I was very much in the midst of Ruben shoes, that I was still running my insurance and benefits company. So I did have a lot going on, but I had this, this vision in like almost like in Batman lights of what the brand could be and what it would represent globally. But I just didn't have, let's just say, time, space, capacity to really do anything about it. I would because I would try to find, I really wanted to manufacture in North America, in Canada. And so I would like look and I couldn't find anything. And so months and months would go by. And then let's fast forward to 2018, 2019, when what I call the third wave of veganism hit, because you have the first wave is the original animal lovers, like the OG vegans, the vegetarians that, do it for animal reasons. Then you had the second wave, which was was already vegan for animal reasons, but I went re-vegan, quote unquote, for environmental reasons when like movies like Cowspiracy came out and all the environmental impact that I spoke about earlier came out. So you had the second wave. The third wave of veganism came with movies like The Game Changer, where now it was like personal health, like what's in it for me. And so what came from that is that all of a sudden veganism was everywhere, and these big major brands were doing, vegan shoes and throwing like the vegan label on everything. And Adidas had done this like plant-based shoe collaboration. And I was like, that's my idea. Like, I screwed up. Like, I'm missing the boat. You know what I mean? So that was when I don't know how, like, you might have the words for it, but it was like this regret, like this, this sensation of like, I really screwed up. That was like, I don't know if you call it a decision, but it was like an awakening or like a realization that.
Yeah, I want to add something there. I am hearing you completely. I would say, that regret, oh my goodness, to really tap into, as I would say as well, an fulfilled life and a lived life, whatever that means. Obviously, it will be completely different to you, for me. And I think that's what can really, really serve as a catalyst in the best possible way. Sometimes we kind of need something that's brutal and like, oh my God, I'm going to, miss this train, but am I going to say yes, or am I going to stay small? And I think that as well. And I know we have obviously been connecting so much around the topic of, really accepting this calling to play bigger, and to just also acknowledge, what does playing bigger mean to me? Am I going to let Nike and Adidas do those things that actually been living within me for such a long time, instead of just, let me explore, let me give myself permission to explore what this thing wants to be. And then, like you said, okay, I'm just going to take it step by step. And I always say, like, how can we, use each day for what it's for, and just be okay with the fact that we get to be beginners.
Exactly.
We get to not, and also to actually drop the need to know everything. Because I think that's such a trap, when we believe that we need to be like experts before we even started. Like, that's a trap.
Yeah.
So I just celebrate you for being bold enough to go for it. And also to remember, it's so different as well, what kind of path because you are here, I know, and that your business serves as, a tool, you could say, to actually create something that's more long lasting, and to shift norm that, with your words and everything we're speaking about here, could benefit tremendously with another kind of perspective. And I love that you bring into your brand. And I want to say that as well. And you who listen to this will notice when you check out your website afterwards, you are all about love.
Yeah.
You are. Because I feel it, and I felt that the first time I met you. And I think that was so powerful. And that's also what's so cool with, smaller brands. Of course, there's a spirit, and there is so much infused with bigger global leading brands as well. But at the end of the day, as a woman, for example, obviously I connect with you. I connect with your story. And that's what's so awesome with marketing and branding. And I know you have, great expertise when it comes to that industry as well. So brand you. I mean, you already said freedom, love. I mean, we get it. You're a female entrepreneur living a nomadic lifestyle, really going for your dreams. If you would want to just expand that, brand you, obviously you are a leader of, you know, something, but you are also a personal brand. How would you describe you?
Wow, that's a great question. I feel so going back to the question of, what happened, what was that decision point? And you worded it perfectly. It was the catalyst.
Yeah.
When I saw what else was happening and I thought this isn't veganism is not something to be profited from. It's not a trend. It's not, just a label you slap on something to make more money or to like take advantage of a market segment. And I think that was what was really not sitting well with me. Not the fact that I was missing this boat, but just the fact that I really did start to feel like part of my soul's mission is to help lead this movement for the right reasons because of the right reasons. And so when you talk about my brand is very authentic. Like like Voes is like my living, breathing heart. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
it's me and a brand. It's very much like I mentioned, like I've never been comfortable with activism because I really do care about people. I'm a 9 in Enneagram, which is a peacemaker. So, like I really value, just peace, harmony, and all of those things. And for me, again, going like very existential is like, I think the ultimate peace and harmony come like I don't understand how we expect to live in a world that is peace and harmony with what we are doing to, the most innocent victims of as animals. And so for me, the mission is always been about animals, and it's not a profit driven company. It's a very mission led, mission driven company for the purpose of helping to eliminate animal agriculture,
Yeah.
and doing so in a very fashion forward, accessible, fun, loving way, which is doing because a lot of animal activism is very, again, confrontational, fear-based. It's horrible. I mean, I don't blame the activists because we need the world to wake up to what's going on, but I feel like an approach of like love is my way. So that's my brand. My brand is that I see you, I love you, you are loved. You know what I mean? And we might get into you are actual like love, like you are, a son of God, a child of the universe. And so we are all love at the end of the day. And to me, animals are just an extension of spirit, and we are all one. And so, yeah, I mean, I guess that's a bit of a long question, but I also did want to say, because you mentioned earlier about, what was it?
Which part?
Like, yeah, we were talking about enjoying the journey, basically.
Oh, yeah.
And I will say that it's not something that's been always easy for me.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because as really big goal, big driven women, we see a finish line, or we just want to get here. And a lot of times I felt like I'm frustrated or spinning my wheels, or like things aren't moving fast enough, or I need to be doing more. And so I just wanted to say for anybody listening that it's not like I've got it figured out. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'm not just like, oh yeah, I'm just here to enjoy the journey and whatever happens, happens. Like it's a constant reminder to enjoy the journey, because at the end of the day, like it is the biggest gift for me to be able to, pursue this business and create what I'm creating. But we're not where I want to be. We're not even where I expected to be. And so the gap there has caused me, at times a lot of dissatisfaction and potential like stress within my business or within my personal health. But it's a good stress, because when I've had those moments and I've been on my knees and questioning, like, this is not easy. You know what I mean? Like, I'm pioneering a whole new movement. We're using next generation materials, which are still in innovation. We've had problems with quality. Yeah. And I'm like I could easily just go get, multi-figure job, cushy job,
Yeah.
and back in corporate, take my vacation weeks and just call it a day. Like, why do I don't have to do this.
Yeah.
But when I am on my knees, I'm like, well, I can't not do this. So
Yes.
yeah.
Oh, I love that you went back there, because this could be like the next episode where we just dive deep into this. That's exactly what I meant. I know we both mean the same thing when it's so easy to just look into the end result and we just see the success. We read the bio. It's like, oh my God, it's easy to get into the comparing game or whatever. And we kind of forget the journey. And even though like we speak about feminine business, we speak about being driven by love and light. That does not mean that we don't. That's the whole thing. To see the light, to be the light, we need obviously to really embrace and to shine light on, well, when I say the dark, the fears, whatever it might be. So thank you for generously sharing that. And for anyone listening, whatever you might be right now, whether it's on the knees or like on the highest of highs,
Yeah.
to remind ourselves that, wow, we have these big visions, we have these dreams, and we get to play with it. However, though, to know that whenever we are facing a storm, that too shall pass. And even if we can't see it in the middle of like the worst rock bottom, to just know, this is what I always say, to know, and this is obviously something that takes spiritual practice, it's helped me tremendously as well, to just know, even in that point, to know that, okay, well, right now it is what it is, but at some point I know and trust that this is happening for a reason. To just embark on that philosophy. It's not happening to me, it's happening for me. Not saying that we need to love it while we're in, the big challenge, but I'm thinking and I'm hearing so much of that in you, like the mindset to just choosing something else and to be willing to go there. Because like you said, actually, in this case, it's not like the carving your own path and walking your talk and being a pioneer in your field, like that's the easiest thing in some sense on a spiritual level. Well, of course, because you get to do what feels right for you. But that does not obviously mean that there aren't many.
Right. Yeah.
In like just facing our internal world, how we navigate ourselves, the industry, the market, just it's a whole big thing. And I'm honoring you for just being brave enough and being on the path. You inspire me. I know that there are so many who will be inspired by listening to your story now and, checking out your full story in your socials and on your website and so on. And again, I just want to say it again, to never underestimate the power that we do have as individuals. We could go back to your story with the NGO. We can go back to your journey and we could also dive way deeper. But for now, for anyone listening, what would you say, whether, for someone who identifies themselves as, a female entrepreneur, a leader, perhaps also being a little bit of a rebellious, like, the norm doesn't really fit me. I just feel that there is something else for me. I'm ready to grow, evolve. What would you say, what would be your advice? They might be in the beginning on the entrepreneurial journey or, wanting to really leveling up. What would be your soul-guided advice to these women and men who might be listening as well?
I would say definitely lean into, if you don't have a spiritual practice, lean into one or take one. As I think the more spiritual practice, meditation, sound healing, yoga, whatever the format is, whatever method you can do to get out of your head, out of your logical brain and into your heart, into your gut. And I think you touched on it earlier, but it's like carving, I've listened to this book, 10X is easier than 2X. And the opening story is about Michelangelo, how he created the David. It's just like getting rid of everything that isn't David. And so I think the spiritual practice is just getting rid of all the noise. So your inner voice gets louder and louder. And I think it's figuring out, finding whatever resources will help you really hone in and tune into that voice, that calling, and maybe, like purpose has like a very good PR team, but like, I know that it's not as easy for everybody to define their purpose or their passion. And so I've heard a lot of people on podcasts talk about curiosity. And it's just like, if you enjoy gardening, then go out in your garden and like lean into that. Like the things that bring you joy.
Yes.
Where it doesn't feel like work per se, or that lights a fire within you, or that brings you joy and it feels meaningful to you, then like, how can you lean in more to that and like be curious about where that could lead you? Because again, it doesn't have to be this massive, vision of changing the world and like creating a brand. It could be a service. And I think the other thing too is like one of the prayers I use often is like, how would you use me? Like, how can I serve? And with Ruben Shoes, with our NGO, it was purely 100% service. And everything, it was like we were guiding. We were at a concert with those big balls that just get like thrown around in the audience, and we were just like the ones guiding the ball of Ruben Shoes. I don't know if that's gonna make sense to people listening. Like,
it makes perfect sense.
It's just like when you serve and you do it for reasons outside of yourself or your ego, then I think that's when you'll really see things like come together. Like the doors just open for you. You'll see the synchronicities. So it's just like lean into how you can be of service, being curious about what you enjoy or what you're passionate about. Hire a coach. I've always been a proponent of working with coaches, and I've had several different ones over the years that have always helped to, yeah, it's just that sounding board that really helps you, because other people see us so much more clear than we see ourselves.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Especially good people. So if you surround yourself with good people, they will bring out the good in you. And do not share any of your ideas with people that, are not living bold lives themselves, because they'll be the first to shut them down because they'll project their fears and insecurities onto you. And so highly 10 out of 10 do not recommend sharing with anybody that is going to potentially, pour water on your fire. You need the gasoline burners. Yeah, you need the cheering squad.
I love that. And that's also, one of the things that I love so much about you. And when we have been connecting, we have seriously been on expansive lunches together. I think I was like, hey, do you want to meet up for an expansive lunch? And we're like, love that. Let's do that. That's basically lunch where we just dive into our dreams. So we kind of just like expand together. That was just inside on. But let me go back to what you were saying. Thank you for sharing that wisdom. I heard you say, obviously, just, lean into and find a spiritual practice that feels right for you. Well, whoever who is listening, wherever that would be, meditation, yoga, something that gets us out of our heads into our bodies. And then obviously also, I loved it. And I think also sometimes like follow what lights you up, for example. Okay, that might be cliche, but oh my God, it's so powerful. Because I think as well, speaking about being an impact-driven entrepreneur on a mission, it does not need to mean that you're the next Oprah or whatever that mean. Could be, if that's the right thing for you. But what you said there, to just tap into the word service, that's just so beautiful. Because what that's like the whole thing as well when we spoke about accept your calling to play bigger. And I think this is so important to emphasize. For someone, playing bigger might be to go for that corner office, and change the world through that company. For someone else, it might be to get the hell out of there and start a countryside bed and breakfast and serve families who want to tap into nature. That just came to me. But regardless of what that be, well, that's a service. You are contributing in creating, more love and light in your own way. So I think that's a very easy thing to kind of get. And I do this a lot, obviously, with coaching, just defining the purpose. Like, what is it? Well, what is it that I truly want? And you said then, well, how can we access that thing that's ours if it's just too noisy? Well, they said, and I should, and all those things. And I mean, we're all nodding here who have not felt that. I think one of the most important things we truly can do is to be brave enough to liberate ourselves from what others will think and really, really make it a priority to stay true to what feels right for us. Like you said in the beginning of your story, you said that I just felt it in my gut. I just knew that it was something else. And back then, it's pretty fair to say, well, you did not know that you were going to sit here and speak about your, global fashion wear. Like it's incredible. And I think that's what I love so much about storytelling. What is it that makes you you? And knowing that every single little thing, not only the wins and all the successes, that's fantastic, but to just recognize that those would not have been there if you would not have been willing to face all those fears and to be willing to rise above it all. And that's what this podcast is so much about as well. How can we come together? And again, might sound like a cliche, but it's so true. What you said there too, whether it's hiring a coach and please, like surrounding yourself with people who aim higher, who you feel in line with your values. So it just becomes a catalyst for growth. I'm just witnessing how impactful that have been for me. And I know we have talked about that a lot as well. So, okay, we could keep on going forever. I want to ask you so many more things, but for now, what would you say, what's the thing that you are currently very focused on rising above?
Wow. Well, I think you met me in the height of my rise, because one of the things, to answer an earlier question of yours too, of like what's been the number one thing that's happened or my characteristic or anyways, I've really stepped into the boldness of claiming what I want, which I think as women there's so much fear around that, and I think one of the things that I've been trying to keep myself safe from is I had a huge fear of judgment, of putting myself out there, of letting people down, and now, yeah, I have become and am being unapologetic about what I want and where I'm going and what I want to create. And I think that boldness, there's a lot of emphasis these days in the coaching world, which I love, and just in like personal growth about like being,
Yeah.
like how like it's not about what am I doing, but like who am I actually being? And
Yes.
am I acting and holding myself up, or like am I showing up the way that like the leader of a global fashion brand
Mm-hmm.
would be? Like how does Desiree in 5 years, like when I'm at that place or whatever, like who is she? What is she doing? What is she wearing? Who is she going to lunch with? What is she eating for lunch? Like where is she? And so it's this art of becoming by being, and really honing in on being super mindful and intentional about how I'm showing up and who I'm being. Yeah.
Wow, I'm nodding here, and it's so interesting. I feel we're so aligned. My last podcast episode, well, a couple of them, it's actually called, Becoming Who You Desire to Be, Intentional Identity Creation. And I know that's something that you've been working with the previous coach. And I think that's so important for us. You said claiming my light, claiming my dream, claiming who I'm here to be, and to remember as well, we can be loving while we're claiming that. Because I think when we're using words as unapologetic, we were speaking about this, unapologetic feminine entrepreneurship. That was going to be the topic for today's episode as well. And how can we do that just by our presence? Because it's so much about an energy, like you said, who we are being, but to really be intentional, to be conscious about it, and to recognize how that shifts our reality. And that's obviously why I got so drawn to you in the beginning. I could see that. I was like, damn, she's talking with power. I want to speak with her. But you did, and you do. And that's obviously also very contagious. So yeah, I'm very, very excited to see, to follow and see where you're going next. Also, okay, we're going to wrap up here now. But on this note, I have to ask you, what's your, because what we do together as well, we have been dreaming big and so on. What's your bigger vision right now? If we're speaking about really going for it, claiming your grandest vision, what is the future you see? Share with us.
Yeah, I see Voes being a common household name, like Lululemon, like Nike, Adidas, in the next few years of just this buzz where it just takes off like wildfire, where people know about us, love the brand, love the shoes. We've expanded our collection. We are in retail stores and online globally, in the UK, in Europe, in North America. Scandinavia, we're talking about that.
Yeah.
And just really building this remarkable community of conscious, mindful people that really want to do better for animals and the planet, and be a part of like a community of love and support. Because I feel like the other thing about stepping into our power is that we inspire other people to take up space too, right? So it's like I just want, and that's why our tagline right now is "You're loved," because I just really want to spread. I just want the brand to be a representation of love, and for people to really feel loved and cared for. And I want that to. I just see that being like a wave coming over the planet, and us being a pioneer and a leader in the revolution of kindness and compassion, but doing it with style.
Oh my God, I love it. So we're sitting here smiling together, and it's interesting. Can you feel it too? Like the energy?
Yeah.
And this is a thing when we share our vision with, when I say, dare I say, the right kind of people who can see that vision with us, because everything you're saying, I'm like, bam, I'm with you. I see it, I feel it. And obviously making it real. You know that I do a lot of work when it comes to visionary, like getting specific. And we get specific because we need to get into the emotions, like the frequency, the vibration of that vision as it's here, it's now. It's not 5 years from now or 10 years, like it's now. And I love that you have the courage to just express it here out loud, publicly, because it is a thing and it's amazing. And also the power of actually speaking our desires, to be willing to say out loud what we truly want, not the playing small kind of version that, because that would not probably create that same spark that I'm noticing in your eyes when you're sharing your vision. And obviously, we could go so much deeper there. And maybe we will do that in a second episode or so. But for now, I love what you're about. And you also said that, a tagline of yours is "You are loved." And I also know we had a discussion that you were mentioning that I'm actually thinking about actually having it being "You are love." And those are interconnected, but still it's another meaning, it's another angle you could say to go there. Would you just want to share what that means?
Yeah, it's like it's interesting how you can just change take away one letter and it changes, like, because "you are loved" is more of an action. I wanted, people that come into our community to feel like we're giving them a warm hug, like you are loved, like you are cared for, you're never alone. But ultimately, if we go super spiritual, like at the end of the day, you are love. Like you don't need anything outside of you to know that you are loved, like you just being who you are love. And so I feel like, yeah, it's taking it from potentially seeking love externally outside of ourselves, needing that affirmation to know our worth versus just knowing our worth and knowing that you are love.
Yes,
Yeah.
you are love.
Yeah.
I love it so much. And this is also such a your brand is such a perfect example, I feel, of authentic branding. What happens when we infuse a person, not a fake made up identity, because sometimes, marketing agencies need to do that and they can do it fantastic. But when there is a physical, actual person that has a journey, that has a story, we got nuggets of it today, that just infuses everything, it just becomes so authentic, so beautiful. And the essence will be love. And again, it's just so much power that goes into that. So I love everything that you're about. And obviously, where can people find you? How can we connect with you? I'm thinking for anyone who might have questions, might want to learn more of your story and maybe buy some new shoes and stuff.
Ooh, yeah.
Where can we find you?
Come to our website.
Yes.
It's just voesandcompany.com.
Yeah.
So VOES and company. And same thing, you can find Voes on Instagram, VOES. Please reach out, slide into our DMs. I'm sure my name will be linked in the show notes, Desirée Dupuis. It's just all my name on Instagram too. That's our main platform. And I do have a lot of videos that we're starting to share with my ideology in short form on YouTube. So if you're curious to learn more, there's always some YouTube videos on vegan fashion. I have a vegan fashion masterclass. So yeah, please reach out because I'm really, really trying to build my community of conscious, mindful, loving people. And so I'd love to hear from you.
I love it. And I know that there are so many, everyone who's listening to this podcast for sure can relate to everything that you're saying and align with it and your mission and your message. And also just highlighting what we're doing here is also such a beautiful way to collaborate. And I think we as women, and we talked about this a lot as well, wow, how can we create like win-win-win scenarios when everything just gets amplified? And we as women being hyper independent also gets to lean into, hey, how can we support each other more? How can we lift up each other? How can we win more together? And how can we shine brighter together? How can we claim our bigger dreams even bolder together? And I think we have been doing that. I feel that with you. And I love that as well. So yes, your contact details will for sure be linked in the show notes. And is there anything else that you feel that you would want to say, for those who are listening before we wrap up?
Thank you so much for having me. I love our conversation. We could definitely talk for hours on end, which we do. But no, for anyone listening, I think just listen to that guiding light within yourself. Yeah. And just start small. Just do it. Just do the next easiest thing. The first thing that you can do on your list towards something that you're interested in, do it.
Yes, I'm adding on to what you're saying here to remember it's not about, oh my God, that big breakthrough moment, the big breakthrough moment or whatever that might be. It will happen because that, perhaps teeny tiny thing you might do today. And also to remember the difference from taking inspired, aligned actions versus, taking actions feeling stressed or feeling like this is in the body or whatever. This is what's so cool. And I hear this in your story as well. And I can relate as well. How does it feel when we are walking towards our bigger dreams, actually caring for how we want to feel, along the journey? Not saying that it's always smooth and light, that it doesn't get heavy and challenging, because it does, but to recognizing that we as empowered feminine leaders with big dreams, that that we get to choose. And I think that's so important to remember. And when we feel, whether it's alone or challenged, that we can actually reach out for support and ask for help and make sure that we surround ourselves with beautiful people who are going for the love and the light and choosing to remember that. And that was a long add-on.
Yes, amen. Absolutely.
Yes. Okay, so maybe we'll just do a second new podcast so we could dive to exactly. Anyways, thank you so much for being here. Obviously, it's a special episode, and it's an extra special episode because you are our official first guest at the Right Show.
Thank you.
It's been an honor to have you. And as I always say, when it comes to the conversation, to be continued.
To be continued.
Thank you so much. You were amazing.
Thank you, Natalie.
Thank you.
Talk soon.